Okay, for this video we're going to be looking at the quadrants of the coordinate plane. So before we started looking at the coordinate plane, we started looking at graphing different points or coordinate pairs based on the xy values. Today we're going to be looking at something called quadrants. Alright, so the x and y axis divide the coordinate plane into four regions called quadrants. So if we were looking at our coordinate plane yesterday, we saw that we had things called the axes, the x-axis and the y-axis. And basically, we can think of these as number lines. Our x-axis was our horizontal number line. That means it goes side to side, left to right. And then we have our y-axis, which is our vertical number line. It's going up and down. When those cross, when those meet, we end up coming up with something that's broken up into four parts called quadrants. Okay, quad, if we think of quad, that means four. So when we're talking about quadrants, we're talking about being broken up into four pieces. And again, it's caused by the x and the y axis intersecting each other at that point right in the center, which hopefully remember that, is called our origin. So let's look at these quadrants. Okay, again, we have our x-axis, which is our horizontal number line. We have our y-axis, which is our vertical number line. Right in the center, where they meet, we have the origin. Now, when we start naming quadrants, we name them kind of weird. Up to this point, we've always dealt with this upper right quadrant. We've dealt with this area up there. So actually, that's the first one we actually name. We call that quadrant 1, and we use a Roman numeral 1 to represent that. A quadrant 1 for Roman numeral 1. Okay? When we're thinking about quadrant 1, I'm thinking about numbers on my x-axis, which are positive, numbers on my y-axis, which are positive. So I'm always going to have a positive x and a positive y in quadrant number 1. Now, quadrant number 2 moves to the left of quadrant number 1. So quadrant number 2 is to the left here. Now, when I'm dealing with quadrant number 2, if I'm thinking about my x values, they're to the left of 0. So my x values are going to be negative, but my y values are still above 0. So they're going to be positive. So anytime I have coordinates where the first number is negative and our second number is positive, I'm going to fall into quadrant number 2. Quadrant number 3 goes directly below that. So there's quadrant number 3. Now, if I'm looking at my ordered pairs for quadrant number 3, I'm thinking, okay, my x value, again, is to the left of 0, so it's going to be negative. My y value is below 0, so it's also going to be negative. So if I'm dealing with a negative first value and a negative second value, then I'm going to end up in quadrant number 3. And then quadrant number 4, so Roman numeral 4 here, is our bottom right quadrant. When I'm thinking about ordered pairs in quadrant number 4, I am thinking, okay, for my x value, I'm back to being to the right of 0. So that's going to be a positive for my x value. For my y value, though, I'm still below 0. So my y is going to be negative. So if I'm looking at ordered pairs where the first number is positive and the second number is negative, I'm going to be in quadrant number 4. So again, quadrant number 1 is upper right-hand side. It's the quadrant we've been plotting points in now, mostly this year and in past years. And then we work counterclockwise for the rest of our quadrants. Quadrant 2 is to the left of that, quadrant 3 is below that, and then quadrant 4 is bottom right. Alright, looking here, what we want to do is I want to plot these points, and then I want to say what quadrant they are in. So I'm going to plot them on my coordinate plane here, and then I'm going to tell us what quadrant they belong to. So my first one, letter A. Letter A is at 7, 2. So I have to remember, okay, anytime I'm doing this, my x value comes first, my y value comes second. So x is 7, so I have to go positive 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. and then up 2, 1, 2, which puts me at a point right about there. So I'm just going to call that A, since I'm example A right now. And I have to think, okay, example A is in quadrant 1. So I'm just going to put a Roman numeral 1 right there. Okay, let's do letter B now. Let's do letter B. So letter B says 3, negative 4. So my x value is 3, so I have to go positive 3. 1, 2, 3. And now my y value is negative 4, so I have to go down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Which gives me a point right there. So that is quadrant 4. Okay, let's look at letter C. Let's look at letter C here. Letter C is 1, negative 5. So my x value is 1, I have to go to the right 1. My y value, though, is negative 5, so I have to go down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That puts me right there for letter C, and that's back in quadrant 4. Okay, let's look at letter D. Letter D is negative 3, 8. So this time my x value is negative, so that means I have to go to the left 3 places. 1, 2, 3. But my y value is positive, so I need to go positive 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 again. My y value was a positive 8, so I need to go up 8. And this is letter D. So if I'm looking, okay, that's in quadrant 2. And then last we have letter E. Letter E is negative 2, negative 1. So my x value is negative 2. I need to go to the left of the origin 2 spots. 1, 2. And now I need to go down 1 spot because it's a negative 1, which puts me right there. So this is quadrant number 3.